Hi, I'm Rex Sikes, author of Life on Your Terms, and you're watching my show, Create Your Best Life with Rex. My guests include some really brilliant people, great minds, who have tips and advice and suggestions and strategies and methods and principles and practices for you to transform your entire living experience and make it glorious beyond belief. So watch my show. Hey, everybody, it's Rex Sikes, and I am thrilled to be here with you. And I got to ask you a question. Who on earth writes 308 books? And if you don't know the answer, I'm going to tell you right now. It's Mark Victor Hansen and his wife, Crystal Dwyer Hansen. Amazing, prolific drive and commitment to get positive, powerful, productive procedures, principles, and practices to you so that you can change and transform your life. And they are my guests here today on Create Your Best Life with Rex. So here's Mark and here's Crystal, and welcome. So glad that you're here.
We're honored to be with you. Thank you. And what a nice introduction. It was very loving.
Thank you, Rex. We're so happy to be here with you.
I'm so happy that you're happy and I'm happy and we're all happy and the viewers are happy. You know, because it's truly an amazing thing. And I want to cut right to the chase. You have a new book out called Ask, which is an amazing book. And there you go, Ask. And everybody's got to read it. They got to get it because it's about directing your mind and about claiming your life. And so that's truly true. But let me ask you this. Let's just go right to the bottom line. What's the benefit for the reader? What will they get from reading your book, and why should they read it?
Well, the title is Ask, the Bridge from Your Dreams, Your Destiny. And what our belief is, and I think yours, is that everyone has a destiny that's great, and our job is to find it. And our position, after being in 80 countries, talking to tens of millions of people around the world, is that there's only one way to get there. The difference between people who get a little and a lot, and that are talented, wonderful, well-educated, personable, likable, is one thing and one only. Do they have the ability to ask? Have they mastered what we call it, mastering asking? You know, if you become masterful at asking, you get it. And obviously, I was good enough to ask with Chicken Soup for the Soul when I wrote it. 144 people all said to my partner, hit the road, Jack. And I said, look, I'm a nice guy. No, Jack's great. And Dr. Canfield is wonderful. But, you know, we persevered, and then we sold 500 million books. So the point is, asking is what we see, the magic elixir to make life work. And I wish you'd tell everyone your story, because you did that same thing when you sequestered yourself by choice long ago.
Well, all right. Well, thank you for that invite. I will. I'm doing a little technical stuff here. When I was about 25, I had a crisis. I went skydiving and I injured myself and went to a doctor who gave me literally a fatal combination of pills and should have died, but it didn't. Instead, I just lost all of my friends, my career, my life, everything. And was on pills, and then ultimately alcohol and all sorts of stuff. Well, and I at one point decided that in order for me to face the world, I needed to lock myself in my apartment, and I committed to sitting in an easy chair so that I could gain the confidence to go back out. I did go out and pee, get up to pee or get a sandwich or something, but I stayed in my apartment in this chair, and I affirmed and I did everything. And at some point I realized that it wasn't working. And I was asking questions like, how long is this going to take? And, why did this happen to me? And I was asking all the wrong questions. And I started to think, well, how quickly can I get out of this chair? How soon will I be able to go, and get my life back? And what will I do to win my friends? And how powerful could I become? And how can I change and make my life better? And so I started getting questions. And after 6 weeks of sitting in this chair and then asking questions, my entire life transformed. It didn't magically overnight. I didn't go from rags to riches or from, being depressed to suddenly magically happy, but it gave me the power and the strength to move forward and claim back my life. I do talk about it in my book as well. And I thank you but it is the power of asking questions and directing your mind. And sadly, most people want answers. Don't you think? They want answers. They don't want to ask the questions.
Right. That is so true, Rex. And your story is just so powerful and just such a good testimonial of what happens, how life begins to change when you start asking instead of just waiting for the answers to come. You have to proactively start asking. In fact, what we've discovered is there is literally no mechanism in this life that has the ability to reveal what is hidden like asking. And Mark and I discovered when we started writing this book that there are actually 3 channels through which to ask, and those are ask yourself, ask others, and ask God. And we believe that each of those channels is equally important because each one delivers a different result and a different level of progress in your life. But we think it always starts with that asking yourself, because that, like you were, that's the reflective journey. And we're all going to trip and stumble in this life. We're all going to get stuck sometimes. Crises happen. I mean, we're all in this major crisis together right now. But it's especially during those times we need to go to that quiet space like you were talking about and start asking ourselves the right questions. And we say there are kind of 3 phases to that asking yourself part. And that is sort of, where am I now? Like what's working, what's not working, all the little sub questions that come out after that, right? The second phase is, where do I want to be? Because some people never stop and define that. They just stay on the hamster wheel. They just keep hurtling through space and never stopping. But so that second phase is so important. Where do I want to be? Where am I now? Where do I want to be? And what specific action do I need to take to get there? And if you can start asking yourself those questions sort of in those phases, you will start to reveal so much that is hidden. And it's truly miraculous like it was in your life. It is a magical, magical process.
Well, you know what I've discovered in all of this, and Ray, I love your work so much. I mean, from Chicken Soup all the way to now. I mean, this is, I got to admit, I have not read all 308 books, but I will.
Oh, good. My kids will have shoes.
It's the tip of the tongue phenomenon. When you say, who was that actor? Who was it? And you ask yourself and you go, I don't know. And you finally give up. The brain keeps working on it. It doesn't stop, and then you're doing something else and you go, oh, it was toilet cable.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, if you know the answer, if I go, what's the capital of Arizona, your brain doesn't have to go any further. But if you ask a question you don't know the answer to, your brain just works on it and works on it and works on it. It's so beautiful. This is so really, really marvelous work that you've done.
Well, in fact, the research shows, just really quickly, that when you ask yourself a question, it literally lights up a different part of your brain. And it's the part of your brain that does critical thinking. So all of a sudden, your brain becomes a greater resource to you, right? So why wouldn't we keep asking?
Well, and the beauty of what you also teach is that your brain is your friend. So many people think of it as a sabotaging agent and doing all these things when it's really your friend. It really is there to serve you and to help you and to help fulfill your destiny. So again, bravo to you guys.
Yeah, well, when I was bankrupt in 1974, I was trying to my teacher, Buckminster Fuller. I was in New York City. I owned a company, and I built the Wall Street Racquet Club, Botanical Gardens, aviaries, geodesic domes. And I was building out of PVC at the wrong time. And the Arabs came along and said, we can write checks so big, your banks will bounce. Well, I had to go to the bank. Went to the library because I was out of money instantly, and I had to check a book at the library. How to go bankrupt by yourself. Well, my best, worst experience, but then after 6 months of sleeping in front of another guy's room in Hicksville, Long Island, New York, it finally came to me. I wanted to be a speaker that talked to people that care about things that matter, that would make a life-changing destiny. So like you, I was at the bottom. I was so low, I had to reach up to touch bottom. And there are a lot of people watching and listening to us now that are in that same place. I'm not besmirching them. What I'm saying is, hey, look, this is the best time to pivot, to reinvent yourself, to ask the new question, to read a book like ours, because the unexamined life isn't worth living. And I said, well, I want to speak. So I went to my roommates down in Hicksville, Long Island, New York, 3 guys. And I said, any of you know anyone that's young, not a lawyer, doctor, actor, famous person that is speaking and make money? And the guy said, yeah. There's this guy a few years older than you talking out in Hauppauge. And I raced my little car out there by 9 o'clock, watched him for 3 hours. He wowed, mesmerized the audience. I asked him at the end, I said, Chip Collins, who became one of my best friends, teach me the business. He said, look, kid, chance you making it as speaker is 1 in 1,000, even though you're buying me lunch, you're not going to make it. But I'll tell you, if you stay out of real estate, because I own the 5 boroughs, and that's my market, I'll teach you what to do. You do life insurance. So I did 1,000 talks a year for the first 3 years. And then people kept saying, well, you had that story in the book, and I was making about 70 grand. And I immediately did a little book called Stand Up, Speak Out, and Win. Sold it from a platform and said, this is my bestseller. I didn't say it was a New York Times bestseller, a national bestseller, an international bestseller. Just buy it. And everybody wanted my signature. We sold 20,000 copies from a platform in a new business that I desperately love. and I made $200,000, tripled my income, doubled my time off, and I started doing a talk called "Triple Your Income, Double Your Time Off," and everybody loved it. And I said, "Wow, this is my magnificent obsession as being a writer." And obviously, I asked myself, "How do I write books that change people's lives?" We now say go from information to transformation. And I say you can't look at a caterpillar and predict butterfly, and butterfly is a symbol of illumination and enlightenment and freedom, and that's what we have on the cover of our 1 Minute Millionaire book. But our goal is to get everyone to start asking profound questions so they transform to fulfill their destiny.
And that is truly, truly amazing. And it is the quality of question you ask that makes the difference. Because if you ask a wrong question, like, why am I so stupid, you'll find out.
Right. And I asked, how do I go bankrupt, and figured out how to go bankrupt, but it turned out it was the right thing long term.
Yeah.
Well, you're asking yourself, if you're always saying, what if I get sick? What if I, the problem is we're answering our own questions. We don't even realize it. What if I fail at this? What if I don't make it? What if all those negative questions? And you are magnetizing, you are affirming exactly what you don't want by asking the wrong questions. So you really need to take the time and frame your questions in a positive way, so they become an affirmation. Decide what it is you want to magnetize to yourself, and then make sure you frame your questions accordingly.
Absolutely. That is very powerful. So people can start wherever they are. That's the other thing, right? They don't have to go to college to do this. They can do it right where they are, no matter what their background, no matter what their religion, politics, or anything, correct? I mean, it's questions that they ask of themselves, others, and God.
Right, exactly. In fact, what we start in the book, we talk about how we're all born as children, as master askers. Children are so beautiful. They ask about everything. They have endless curiosity. They want to know everything. They ask who, what, when, where, why. They want to know everything. And they also ask for more and more and more, which is really beautiful because that's human spirit. We are designed to want more because that's called evolving and growing. And that's what children do so naturally. But over time, with our parent, maybe depending on how you grow up, your parents might have shut you down, like, that's enough, stop asking me. Or then teachers or the authority, only ask when you're called on, and, you get hired by people who aren't interested in your questions, and, at some companies and the military, whatever, just life starts rejecting you. And over time that gets crushed. That beautiful curiosity, that desire to ask for more gets crushed out of us. Like there's something wrong with us if we want more, if we ask too much. And that's what Mark and I are saying with this book, and what you're saying, Rex, is we really want to reopen that for everybody. It's inside of us. It's just this little hidden gem inside of all of us, and it can be rekindled when we focus on this.
Well, and what is so absolutely wonderful about both of you is the reach that you have, the ability to reach and to transform and to work with other people that a lot of other people don't have those avenues to do yet. So you are literally paving the way for all those who will come behind you. And that's the marvelous, not only present day actuality, but a legacy, that you leave for everyone else who follows suit. So, bravo. Bravo.
Well, we are Horatio Alger Award winners, which means we've come from rags to riches and been excessively philanthropic. But we got so many kids that come up to us that are not getting any media and not getting any news and not learning the right stuff. And I've written a book called The Richest Kids in America, and we show that there are really great kids that have all made $1 million before they're 19 and done stunning, stellar stuff. And it's all because they learn how to ask themselves and transform it and build a better you, so to speak.
That's thrilling because my son just graduated high school and he just turned 18, and my daughter's 22. I'm getting those books for both those kids when we're done later. I'm going to order those because they definitely. I didn't know, out of the 308, I didn't know that one.
Well, by the way, most people don't know all the stuff that I've written, and by the way, I'm very thankful. So let me do two things here. One is invite everyone to go to our respective websites, markhansen.com, my three names, and Crystal Dwyer.
Crystal Vision Life.
crystalvisionlife.com. and then what's happened with the book is we were just on one, I was telling you before we began, Scott Carson had us on a giant show twice. And the second time he said, look, if you know anyone despondent, disconsolate, depressed, or suicidal, which is going crazy in America right now, unfortunately, buy 10 books and give them away to those people in need, and it'll come back to you in a good way. And that's why it's rocking, because the book literally transforms people, because they start asking themselves new questions. Like you said, you can either ask the wrong question, how do I, like Crystal said, sick or depressed or despondent or die, or you ask questions that are uplifting and fulfilling and destiny creating. And we're saying, hey, wait a second, we all need to redo this, because 8 billion of us are concurrently sequestered at one level or another, government imposed. Whether that's right or not, I'm not here judging this minute. I am personally, but I want to open it up. I want the economy to work. I want people to come back to work, because you can't feel good about yourself unless you're doing two things. One, creating, because the Bible says in the beginning, God created 28, you and I in his image. That means we're supposed to be creative. And number two, you're contributing, and taking from the government is a lose-lose. Contributing and making the pie bigger for everybody is a win-win.
Yeah, I think that and I think you hit it on the head right there. I mean, a lot of people think when it comes to scarcity, like we're going to divide the pie and there's not enough for everybody, instead of, hey, we're going to make more pies, and our job is to create pies. We're pie makers, and then we share from our bounty, from our abundance. And then the other thing is I do think there is an intrinsic need to be productive and creative. I don't think I rarely encounter somebody who goes, I don't want to do anything. They want to do something, and they want to make a difference, or they want to leave their mark, or they want to, and so what you help people do is direct their attention to what it is possible that they can start achieving and or accomplish in the long run, or in the short run, rather. That was one of the questions I learned not to ask myself, was how long would it take, but how soon can I make this happen?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And what you need to ask yourself every day is, am I moving forward every day? Because that's positive. That's something you can get your brain around, and you can, understand, and it's not unachievable. I wanted to go back to what you were saying a minute ago, because, Rex, I think it's so important that people understand we are here to be one another's greatest resource. We really are. And if we just realize that and become comfortable, that's sort of the ask others part. And Mark and I feel like, well, I talked about the three. I said, ask yourself, ask others, back to the three things. It's ask yourself, ask others, and ask God. So the ask others is the second phase. And all these phases, it's not like a timed phase. You're going to use all of these channels constantly throughout your life, or you should, on your asking journey, because that's what opens up everything. But the asking others is so important. We are here to be one another's best resource, and some people are just so afraid to ask. And we talk about that in the book. We call it the 7 roadblocks to asking, and these are really important to pay attention to. And if you don't mind, we'll just go through a couple of them.
Please, let's go.
So unworthiness. So many people feel this subtle level of unworthiness, and it could be conditioning from our childhood that kind of is just always telling us, we don't deserve better. Naivete, it's just like not being aware of what's out there for us. We just don't know, because we weren't raised with that. And just a really quick story about that, we had a woman who worked for us when my children were very young. She was from the Philippines. She would come every day and make these beautiful, dinners and dishes from her homeland. And one morning she shows up with this fruit and cut it up on a plate, and this shiny orange fruit. She handed it to me. She's like, Crystal, try this. And I tasted. I'm like, this is the best fruit I've ever tasted. What is this, Melda? She goes, it's a mango. And I was like, wow, how come I've never tasted a mango before? Because I thought I was really worldly. I'd traveled all through Europe and, been a lot of places. And I said, where did you get this? Thinking she must have imported it from the Philippines. And she goes, I got it at the grocery store. And I'm like, these are at the grocery store? And I've been walking past them the whole time. This is the best fruit in the world. But it made me think, what other things am I missing every day in life? Because I'm just naive. I just don't even know. I have no experience of it. So I don't even know it's there for me. What people am I passing by that might be so wonderful to know? Relationships that could, become really amazing and lead to something new and different, business and friends and personal relationships. What opportunities am I passing by? And for so many of us, we're just really naive. And that roadblock is really about becoming curious again, asking those questions, becoming childlike, ask about everything, look around you. We live in this amazing world. Don't be naive to all the things that are there for you, because that might be the key for you. That might be the missing key. The next roadblock is doubt. Okay, that's kind of this, what I call the gray zone, just this, constant doubt that some people carry, that, I should ask, but I doubt that they're going to say yes. I doubt that they're going to like it. I doubt they're going to give me a response. And so they just live it sort of at the gray zone. The next one is excuses. And that is, sort of a stubborn pride. I think we all know people like this who go, I don't need help. I have it figured out. They won't ask anybody. They won't ask for directions. They won't ask anything of anyone because they're too stubborn, too proud. And we talk about in the book, Mark's brother is the story we use in that, because that was so much Bailey. He was this brilliant guy, but he would not ask anything of anyone to save his life. And it caused him great pain and problem and, discomfort. The next one is fear. And, fear is just that some people have this real terror of asking because they're so afraid of rejection, because human beings need love so much. I think that comes down to just our need for love. And we sometimes feel like if we're rejected that we're losing love or approval. And just the awareness of that makes it so much better, because sometimes you just need to learn to step on your fear and move through it. And you realize that was an illusion. You didn't need to be afraid. The answers are there for you. This resource is there for you. And the next one is pattern paralysis. And we all know these people who just do the same thing. And we've probably all done it at times in our lives, do the same thing over and over and over again. And it's not working. It's not working this week. It's not working the following week. It doesn't work the next month or the next year. And you just do it and do it and do it and do it without stopping and asking, is this working? What's working about it? What is not working? Where do I need to go next? And then the final one is disconnection. And for me, that's the saddest one of all, because, disconnection means you kind of become detached from the dreams in your own heart. And that's really sad. It's an apathetic state. And I'm sure you can relate to this a little bit, Rex, when you just didn't know where to go.
Yeah.
But it's that time. And a lot of people get there where you need to sit with yourself and ask those questions and reconnect to those dreams in your heart. They're still there. We all have a purpose in this life. We all have a destiny. And if you just start taking this asking journey and be brave about it, you will discover that.
Rex, it's sort of what you said a minute ago about you ask a question and the mind keeps pondering it. The subconscious is the way we talk about it, right? The conscious asks, the subconscious figures out how to reveal it. I did a giant meditation Nightingale Conant down in Chicago that sold around the world called Dreams Don't Have Deadlines, meaning what she's saying is we got to pull those back out. And a lot of us got to start re-examining it. And the only way to do it is ask and then put it in writing.
Excellent. I wanted to say, too, that, Napoleon Hill has the 6 ghosts of that,
right?
The detrimental ghosts that plague people, fear of dying, fear of illness, those kind. You, bravo, again, profound to have identified the seven reasons why people don't ask, because it is, when you think about it, you talked about conditioning, and there's a popular phrase, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. And frankly, what you're saying is just go ahead and ask, but that's the kind of thing that has people not asking in the first place. They'd rather say, okay, I'm not going to bother with trying to get something from somebody. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And then if I get in trouble, I'll ask for forgiveness. But
go ahead.
No, please.
So in business, because we've got to get back business in America, because business equals jobs equals cash flow equals paying taxes, and we get the economy going again. And the guy that's the best and the most honest is Elon Musk. When the governor of California says, no, you can't work, he asks himself, well, how could I get to work? And so what he did is he calls up 3M somehow and says, look, you can't make ventilators. I can do it. I'll make all these ventilators. But while he made the ventilators, he asked himself, why don't I make cars? And my understanding is from reading, I'm not a stockholder right now, but he made 90,000 cars and was the most profitable car company during everybody else was out of work. And he brought not only work back to, I think it's somewhere in Northern California, but he hired 90,000 people more because he decided not to let the virus get him, and no one got sick. no one got depressed, but he personally made $20 billion in one day because they kept selling the cars. And that's what asking is about. Ask yourself, how do I go over, under, around, or through? Because we all hit obstacles. I had 144 people say, get out of here. That chicken soup stuff isn't going to sell. It's 19 nice stories. When we did ask, our publisher called up and said, look, you guys, I'm sorry, but COVID has hit. You want to postpone delivering the book because the bookstores are all under sequestration. They're all out of business. And I go, no. We'll figure out a way. And what I said to you before we began, whatever number I give you is close, 60 or 70 podcasts, and we'll do way over 100 between now and Christmas time. And our goal is to talk to 100 million and help 1 million people read this, not because we need them to read. We need them to read it so they wake themselves up, and so they find that you take adversity, turn into opportunity. Now, Napoleon Hill would have said, every adversity has a seed of equivalent and greater benefit. We say every adversity can be turned into opportunity, advantage, and it's time that each of us individually have to ask, how am I going to do it? What am I going to do to fix my situation and then help? Because every one of us that's working end up directly and indirectly getting 10 other people employed.
Well, again, it's brilliant, and everything that you tie together and all of your collective background and experience. I'll come back to this, but let me say I didn't properly tell people about Crystal. Crystal, you're an entrepreneur and a business strategist and a speaker and an author as well, and a celebrity coach and a certified life coach and a wellness and nutrition expert. I mean, both of you come with buku credentials in terms of life experience and what you've accomplished. And and what you have built in terms of your philanthropy, in terms of your writing endeavors, and in terms of what you're doing now is nothing to sneeze at. I mean,
thank you, Rex. Yeah,
I bet there are a lot of people who go, "Could I sell 500 billion books?"
I hope that works. That's the right question, because we have youngsters come up and say, "I'm going to outsell you." I said, "Look, that's the goal. I'll take the reflected glory." In other words, let's do a different example out of sports, and that is, you know who Roger Bannister was, the first medical doctor that ever ran. You remember what he ran? A 4-minute mile. Well, the next week, 119 people ran it, because before that, the belief was nobody can do it. In business, the belief was nobody could break $1 trillion. And now we got $4 trillion companies in America, which is a positive and a negative. But we got one company, Apple, is going to be a $2 trillion company within the next week. So once you break the glass ceiling, so to speak, I don't know why they call it glass ceiling, but every one of us got to ask, what is our glass ceiling? Where is my greatness? Like, as Horatio Award winners, we're friends with both Quincy Jones, but really good friends with David Foster. And both guys couldn't make it in school. And there are a lot of people out there saying, wait a second, I don't have a degree, so I can't make it. Well, neither guy ever finished high school. And how do you predict David Foster gets with Barbara Streisand, and she says, I want to have music that is celestial and cosmic, and he does her first song and makes her great, and then he does Whitney Houston and on and on and on. And if you haven't heard Hitman or heard the music, you can do it on a lot of software systems now. The point is, how there's no system to train to become world's greatest orchestrator like those two guys are in America, or Andrew Lloyd Webber is in London. Now, if there is, I don't know it, and I've never seen it.
Well, let me ask you this, because I do think it's important. And when you were doing Chicken Soup for the Soul, and you were getting all of the rejection, and you had been bankrupt, and you'd gone through, everything that you've gone through, how did you maintain your attitude? What did you focus on? Well, this is going to happen no matter what. I don't care if there's 8,000 people who say no. I mean, what was defining for you that somebody else could say, because when you talk about the 7 reasons why people don't ask, I think the same thing is true when people try and imagine a future for themselves. They doubt, they fear, they're victims of their mental habits and thinking that, well, I'll never be good enough, I'm unworthy. How did both of you, because I want to hear Crystal's stories too, but how did you overcome your adversity and accomplish? I mean,
she's got a great story, and I'll let her do it. But going back to being bankrupt, luckily I had a Sony tape recorder, and I used to hold it like this, driving around a beat up old Volkswagen, shifting the floor. And I listened to tapes continuously, and I shut off the news, which is what we're asking everyone to do. We're asking you no more than 15 minutes of negative news a day, because it pollutes your brain, it demeans your spirit, and makes you despondent, disconsolate, depressed, and suicidal. So it's like a no-no. Listen to positive, inspirational, educational, motivational stuff. And if you're listening to me now, and start with my stuff, you can get it free on YouTube, or you can go to our website. There's a gazillion things to do, or Amazon has all my books. So do that. But you need to do it. Zig Ziglar used to call a checkup from the neck up. That's number one. Number two is whatever you can do, you got to do. Cabot Robert, the guy who really saved my life, says, what you can do, you ought to do. What you ought to do, you can do. And what you can and ought to do, by the grace of God, you will do. And the point is that I just kept taking action. And then I did, like I said, 1,000 talks a year for the first 3 years. And I was moving so fast, I didn't even realize the economy was in trouble because I was starting to make a lot of money. With that, I hand it over to my beautiful wife. And you got to go through your beginning story.
Well, okay. I mean, Rex, did you have any, I don't want to cut you off. Did you have any comment to that? Or
I'll come back. That's fine. I mean, I want to hear your story because this is truly amazing.
Right. So, like I said, we all are going to experience personal crisis. And I think one of my most intense times was when I was very young. I was one of those kids who found high school to be very easy. And so I just wanted to move on with my life, with the world. And so I accelerated my curriculum in high school and graduated at age 16 and married my boyfriend who was 5 years older. Not a good life plan. We were 2.5 years later, I was divorced by myself in a new city, no friends, no family, and a baby on my hip. No idea how I was going to support myself. So I did the only thing I could think of, and I applied for food stamps. I'd heard about getting food stamps. So I received the food stamps, went to the grocery store that first day, and I was about to turn over those food stamps for my groceries. And honestly, all of a sudden, this epiphany hit me, and it was like a light was shining on my head, and this question popped into my mind. First of all, it was, how did I get here? And then followed by a second question, are you doing everything you can? Are you doing the best you can to get out of this? Or are you taking the easy way out? And I really heard that in my mind, and I knew the answer. And so it happened, it seemed like time slowed down for me, but as I was turning the food stamps over to the cashier, I did it with so much conviction in my mind. She had no idea what I was thinking, but I said, this will not be my future. And I was saying to myself, I'm never doing this again. And I went home and thought, okay, what do I do now? Because I didn't have any answers, but I had questions. So I kept asking them. And the first one was, how do I make money tomorrow? How do I just start making money tomorrow? And I'd heard on the radio, temp service agencies like Kelly Girls. So I called them, and asked them, how do I get registered? I filled out the paperwork. They started sending me a choice of jobs every day. And I started going out on these jobs. And then I realized that there were 3 other agencies in town. I registered for 2 more agencies. That way I'd have a better choice of jobs every day. And so I started, filling in attorneys' offices and working at sales conventions, doing sales and things like that. And I started learning a lot about myself. I realized that I like business and I really love sales and people, really love working with people. And from there, I decided to put myself through real estate school, get my license, which I did. And a year and a half, also in the meantime, someone had approached me and said, you should do some modeling. So I approached the biggest agency in my city and asked them if they would sign me. And they did, thankfully. And I did some television commercials, which went national. Ended up going national. So when that happens, you join Screen Actors Guild. You're almost forced to, but it was great because the benefits were amazing. All of a sudden I had the best insurance benefits for myself and my little boy. And so literally a year and a half from that time where I was turning over the food stamps to the cashier, I was working for the largest home builder in our valley. I became the #1 salesperson, and I was getting these residual checks for my commercials. And I often thought back about that because I think that is the one thing I'm thankful that I do. I can reflect back. And that's the important part of this journey is reflecting back. And I would ask, what if I hadn't done that? What if I hadn't been able to ask those questions and even more importantly, answer them honestly? Because sometimes we're not honest with ourselves. And I knew when I asked myself that question, are you doing the best you can? I knew I wasn't. I knew there was more inside of me. So I answered it honestly. And when you do that, something awakens inside of you. But sometimes you have to be like your own parent, And it's just an amazing experience.
That is truly awesome. I mean, what a story, both of you guys. I mean, incredible stories, and it should really resonate with who's ever watching this, whenever they're watching it. That no matter where you are in life, if you just start from where you are, where your feet are, and start moving, taking action, and ask the right questions and pursue it, that you can accomplish great things and be wowed with the success that comes your way. I want to just take a pause for a second and remind people that you can buy 10 books and give them out, as you said and suggested, but also they can buy them and put them in libraries and college libraries and different places for those people who couldn't afford to get a book, but you can gift in a number of ways. Hospitals have libraries. I mean, if you're thinking, who do I give books to? There's plenty of places that want books and need books. Even if they're the corner book library, outside somebody's house, buy a book from Mark and from Crystal, and then stock places all over so that people have access to this marvelous work. It's there's just so many outlets for your work to be received, and also I want to remind viewers that all of the links, Mark, Victor Hansen, and Crystal's link, it's Crystal.
Dwyer.
No, Crystal Dwyer.
Crystal Vision Life is my website.
Crystal Vision Life. We're going to put those links in the description below too, so that anytime people are watching this, they'll have access to your websites and to your links and things like that.
We'll send you all the links. The other thing we're doing, Rex, that's interesting to you probably is we want to give free to everybody, askthebookclub.com, which we once a month are going to talk to people, because if we can create people to be master askers, we can help everyone listening for free fulfill their destiny. That seems to be the goal that we're supposed to do right now, because what if 8 billion people came out of this and instead of feeling worse, felt better and said, hey, wait a second, there is a future, it is new, it is yet to be realized, and as I realize mine, I can help everybody else realize theirs.
That is so awesome.
All you have is an experience here. And so if you go inside of yourself and start to create your own experience through the right questions, positive framing, through positive affirmations, and also using your imagination. We say it's important to prepare to be a good asker. And there are three things that we focus on in the beginning. That is belief that your answer is out there for you, and belief that you deserve it. And I think in your question to Mark, how did he get past all that rejection? I just think when he sees a vision that he knows is going to work, he just has this incredible belief. He doesn't really take his cues from outside. Obviously, he holds on to that belief. And the second part of preparing to be a good asker is action. Okay, you can't just sit on your couch and say, okay, here are my questions, now deliver it to me. You have to, as you get those answers, as you ask a question, an idea comes to you, you ask another question, an illumination comes to you, take an action on that, call that person, research that thing you just thought of. Those are coming to you. Those are real responses from God's perfect universe. It's set up to respond to you. So don't overlook it. You have to take the action. And then the third part is imagination. Your imagination is the greatest gift God gave you. I mean, we're the only animal that can imagine, right? Other animals are programmed. They run by instinct. Their lives are already kind of pre-programmed. Ours, we literally we're created in our creator's image, which means we get to create it. And it starts with our imagination. That's where we go. And we create this beautiful template, this architecture for our lives. Literally, we're creating the architecture for our lives by imagining the greatest scenario. What Mark and I say is go to the nth degree of the perfect scenario that you want and be there in your imagination. Imagine, I am already the most successful person I can imagine. And then engineer it backwards. Start asking the questions. What am I doing every day? What's important to me each day? Who am I talking to each day? What activities am I doing? And from this perfect scenario, you start to sculpt your life in a perfect way.
Come about Charlie Green. We had a great story in the book about a guy named Charlie Green. It's better if she tells it than if I tell it.
Okay, I'll tell. I was just going to let her.
Oh, do you want to respond first?
Yeah.
No, go ahead. I'll come back with the response afterwards.
Okay, so anyhow, Mark's belief in what he does, which is really so powerful. we got an amazing story from a guy named Charlie Green. He submitted. We used it for the book, but he said he just submitted it out of the blue. He said, I don't know if you know this story, Mark, but I was at this mega church in the Midwest, and you came to speak to us before you did Chicken Soup for the Soul. And he said you just delivered this beautiful sermon that we all loved and appreciated. You had the whole church like uplifted, and he said then at the end you asked us to stand up. And you waved around this manuscript and said, "This is my new Chicken Soup for the Soul book, and we're trying to find a publisher. We need this to get published, and I'm asking you to pray with me that 1 million copies of this will be sold." And so they all prayed with Mark, and that this book would be a great success. And then he said, "I'm asking one more thing. I've got these order forms here, and I'm asking you to fill this out, put your credit card on, and when we get our book published and printed, we'll send you a copy." And Charlie said, it was the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. He said, we all took that form and filled it out because Mark's belief was so powerful that this was going to change everyone's life. And he believed in it so much. We all did it. And he's like, and look at what happened. He was right.
Wow. It's amazing. Can I want to segue, and I don't want to come back to what I wanted to say if I remember it, but how does it feel? It has got to feel incredible to know all of what you both have accomplished over the years, and the number of people who've picked up your books. Because, when you say you sold 500 billion Chicken Soup for the Soul, but you got 308 other books, or 7 other books, that are also being sold, and you're talking and you're speaking and you're philanthropy and you do things with renewable energy. I mean, it's got to feel good, I would think.
There's, like Crystal was saying, there's 2 basic parts. One is the thinking. So you got to ask yourself, what am I thinking? Because what are the thinking a thinker could think, as Dr. Seuss would say. And then number 2 is, what are you feeling? Because we're scholars and a lot of people, but one is a guy named Neville. And Neville says, you got to live in the assumption of the wish fulfilled, meaning that you got to be there before you get there. And so when Jack and I did Chicken Soup, I interviewed literally the 101 best-selling fiction and nonfiction authors. I didn't ask how to write. I knew how to write since I was 16 and was fairly successful at it, I guess. But what I asked is, how did you market so many books to get there? And then we wrote what's called a wow of a business plan, because we said we got to have a trajectory. And the publishers, none of them believed it, because they only knew 1 or 2 methods, and I had all this stuff that I was going to do, and we're still unfolding it. So what's amazing, because the goal was really, to sell $1.5 million in a year and a half. We did $1.3 million, and then $5 million, and then $10 million, and $15 million a year, and got Guinness Book of Records. But the real goal is sell 1 billion books. Nobody's done it, and I'm going to live to 107 with options for renewal, because I'm in really good health. Because if you have a high quality of life, you want a high quantity of life. Yeah. And we're going to do that, and we're having a ball, and we love our 5 kids and 6 grandkids, and we think we'll have more yet, but grandkids, that is. So the point is, we want our books to transform everybody that is willing to read. And what she said to you a minute ago is, universe conspires on your behalf if you input the right thoughts and feelings. That's the critical bottom line. And back to your question a minute ago, Rex, my position, I'm a book addict. So I know that books have transformed me again and again and again. I know that seminars that I've attended have, that podcasts that we're listening to are enlarging us, that we're with a group of people that are like-minded, that are positive, right? Napoleon Hill said the quantity of service, quality of service with a positive mental attitude equals unlimited compensation, not just for Crystal and Mark and Rex, but for everybody that learns the principles. And what our books are is the principle and philosophy of personal achievement by asking your way forward and going, because all of us have a path. Back to what you said about drops of water, most people's drops of water, the 3 phases of water, are frozen, which is where most people are, a little ambient. Well, I'll just try a little, her statement about doubt. And then those of us that become enlightened by reading our book, Ask, that's what people are doing, is they're finding, they're going from the little sense of self to their bigger sense of self, and they're no longer stifled by the economy. They're no longer stifled by the government. They're no longer stifled by withhold. They're no longer stifled by some ghost of disease or ghost of whatever the problem is. Like you talked about Dr. Hill's, 6 ghosts, which I'm a master of all that. I can go through that with you if you want. But so you're asking exactly the right thing. And we're asking everyone to go to their bigger self and fulfill their destiny.
And it is beautiful. And Mark, I appreciate that so much. And Crystal, being a hypnotherapist, one of the things, would you agree that most people have to wake up from their daily trance rather than?
Boy, it is so true. What we think is our reality, and even what we think we are, is probably not true. Okay,
Absolutely.
Because most people are operating on a program, and it's a program that we've accumulated over time. It's a program that runs at the subconscious level. And so there's all this input that happened into our minds as we were very little through all of our experiences. And unless we've had the ability or the awareness to stop, and observe that throughout our lives and say, wait a second, that's really not true. I'm not a loser, and I'm not doomed for failure. I'm not. We tend to just run those programs at the subconscious level until we decide deliberately to intervene. And that intervention is so important. And I want people to know that. I have some audios that are available, and I'm not trying to sell audios here, but if you can't do it yourself through a meditation, it is really helpful to do it through a guided visualization using the techniques that I use. They're on Audible. You can go to my website and get them, but I have things like freedom from anxiety, living free of depression, learn to make life happen for you, the Garden of New Beginnings, overcoming insomnia, because I just want people to know that all of these things that are weighing you down, that feel like they are you, like we start to identify with them. We go, I am depressed, I am this, I am anxious, I am a loser, none of it's true.
Right.
Your mind is malleable. And so what I try to do with my work is just help people go back into those programs and sort of erase them, neutralize them, give them perspective, understand they're just experiences. And then we come to what I call a 0 point. And it's the point of new creation. It's a clean slate point. You get to recreate everything deliberately now, not randomly, through all of this other input that maybe you didn't want, you didn't like, or you didn't agree with, right? It's a beautiful process. So yeah, that is a good resource if someone wants to do that kind of work. It's at my website, crystalvisionlife.com.
That's awesome. And again, the links will be in the description. But for Mark and Crystal, what I would say is I truly believe that transformation can be instantaneous. It can absolutely happen overnight. And it can also take time, like when you plant the seed and it comes to fruition, months later, or, and it grows in the darkness and battles the elements or whatever, and then ultimately it grows. But I do also very much believe that, being creatures of habit and conditioning that you described, that we need to do the right things correctly, repeatedly, consistently for long enough for it to become the new habit. So when it comes to asking, to continue to ask, there are those people who will say, well, I read the book, I tried it, I did it once, or I did it for 3 weeks or something like that. And then they stop and they don't keep going. And the idea is keep going till you make it happen. There are people, I always say this, there are people who have tunneled out of prison with a spoon.
Right.
And that's what we're saying. That's why we created askthebookclub.com for free, because we want to have everyone do this transformation process together, because we need to do it. And my teacher, Bucky Fuller's best friend was Dr. Margaret Mead, and Margie always said, as she was affectionately called, never doubt a small group of committed people can change the world. It's the only thing never has. A small group of askers can start asking these new positive questions and say, hey, wait a second. We've had the biggest shutdown, 8 billion of us. It's crisis equals opportunity in the yin and yang symbol. And now let's go make the opportunity for ourselves and for everyone else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know your time is precious too, and I have a few more questions that I wanted to ask you. So I hope we have time to do that.
Yeah, we'll sneak them in.
Huh?
Go ahead.
The first is, why a fable? You start the book, and it's beautiful with the fable of Michaela. So how do you? What is, I guess, the point of beginning with the fable and then going into the rest?
Right. So Mark and I really believe in the power of stories, because stories become metaphors for our lives. They really do. Our brains learn in patterns. And so sometimes when we can read this beautiful story, and the fable is about, Michaela starts this asking journey. Her life, she literally is hauling rocks every day. Her life is terrible. And we started with that as a metaphor, because for some people, life feels really heavy right now, like you're hauling rocks every day, you know? So we, when I wrote the fable, I felt like it was so relatable to people, and I wanted them to live this experience of, you know, living somebody else's life who started at rock bottom and opened up to the asking journey. And what happens with Michaela, I'll just give the listeners a little hint. So she comes home from the rock quarry. She's basically an indentured servant. This is happening in the times of kings and queens. She's an indentured servant. She's lost her home. Her parents both died, and then the bill collectors took her home. So she has nothing. She's sleeping in a grove of trees. She falls into an exhausted sleep, and the being comes to her. And he takes her on this journey, and he shows her this bridge, this asking bridge. And it's a sparkling bridge, and she realizes that some people are crossing this bridge, and they seem to be so happy. And the message he gives her is, remember to ask and never stop asking. And then she wakes up from that dream, and she realizes she's been dramatically changed. And the message was so important. And even though she doesn't understand all of it, she keeps exploring it. And then her life keeps unfolding. And it's just so beautiful because the reader can move along Michaela's journey and start to feel what it feels like to have these breakthroughs and have this spiritual awareness that there's something beyond what you're seeing right now. There's something beyond this life that you're looking at and observing. You can create something new. What you have right now is just the result of things that have happened in the past. But going forward, you have the ability to recreate everything.
Well, that is truly beautiful. I've got to have a comment in just a second from Mark and you, but do you think that people should keep asking the same thing for a while? Or because some people could say, well, I want to be this, how about that, how about this, how about that? Is there a way to hone? Do you think that there's that people should focus and hone on the destiny they want to create, or just do a shotgun scatter approach?
No, shotgun won't work. You've got to be definitively focused, like you said, in habits. And we're saying you've got to ask yourself, ask others, ask God. And the way to ask God is you go deep into the thing. Say, God, what's your destiny for me? God, what's your destiny for me? God, what's your destiny for me? 400 times before you go to sleep at night. And when you wake up, probably at like crazy time, like 2:58, tell your spouse or sweetheart, hey, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to take notes. Forgive me, I'm going to have to turn on a light, because you've got to capture it when it comes through, because it will come through. Just like when we said, how are we going to write a book that changes humanity? And that's what we decided to write with Ask. And that's why we decided to use this story, because we won't do anything in the Hansen family companies that's not unique, transformational, and inevitable. We think it's inevitable. We are here to give the world the ability to ask. I mean, Christ said, ask and you shall receive, but he forgot to delineate all the stuff you have to know to do that. So I think we've been given this divine challenge, and we're up to it. We're thankful for it, and we want to source and serve people to levels that they never thought they could be served.
That is beautiful. And I think another thing is, it said, ask and believe you shall receive, and you shall receive. And then you can ask, how can I better believe? How can I begin to believe strongly? How can I increase my faith? How can I, in other words, you can ask about anything that you want to develop more fully.
Correct.
Right.
So
just keep going deeper with your questions. You'll never run out of questions. And the deeper you go, the more you'll uncover, the mysteries that are waiting, the answers that are waiting for you.
Well, I love the idea that you also, thank you, I appreciate that. I also love the idea that you did do the fable, because, you reach the reader in so many different ways when you tell a story, as opposed to just directly, giving instructional reading. It deserves to be a movie.
That's what, oh my goodness, I'm so glad you said that, Rex. You know what? That's our dream. We see it. And the funny thing is people have been coming to us already saying, this should be a movie.
So we're seeing somebody, and everybody in Hollywood, so maybe you can whisper in the right ear and get it done, because what happens
let's work together. I'm asking, let's work together. I'll help you any way I can. You can help me any way you can, and we'll take the world and transform it in beautiful ways. But go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
So we don't exactly know how to do it, but we know that it is going to be a movie that changes. And the last story, we got to go, is that we have a story about Jim Stovall, who went blind as he was becoming an NFL player, and he wrote a book, and I did the forward and backward, and I said that should be a movie, just like I saw Michaela be a movie, and that's why we put it as the first story. It's that critical. and he ended up doing a book called The Ultimate Gift, and it made $100 million as a movie. And as a blind guy, he wrote us a letter and said, "I now write books I can't read, and I make movies that I can't see." And we put that story in Ask because we want people to get out of their pity party and go to their victor story. We want them to find the greatness within, the super self within, whatever they want to call it. We don't care what you call it, as long as you manifest your full destiny.
Wow, that's awesome. That's incredible. Do you have time for one or two more questions?
Quickly,
yeah. We have like 5 more minutes.
Okay. So what is the message you feel most important to leave the audience with then?
Turn off the negative outside stimulus. Turn it off completely for a while, because that negative, no matter what it's about, is programming you to the opposite of what you really want. So just turn it off for a while and just spend time with yourself, deciding what you want, asking those questions. Where am I now? Where do I want to be? What are the actions I need to take to get there? Turn all of that completely off, and let's come together and create your new life.
Wow. And Mark, did you?
Yeah, I want everyone to fulfill, like I've said throughout this whole wonderful interview with you, Rex, is that we want everyone to fulfill their destiny, because we could make the world work. Because it's been broken now, let's fix it and let's do it right the next time, because that's what happened after, the bubonic plague. That's what happened after all the deadly plagues in the past. And like you said, every 100 years, whether it was a Spanish flu or whatever, the world got better and better, and we have breakthrough innovations during this slowdown time. So we're going to go into the most extraordinary, blissful times ever once we get over this little disease.
Well, I want to thank you. You guys are truly remarkable, and I hope I ask you to come back again and again to talk about other things and the other things you're doing. And your time is valuable, but it's also valuable for the listeners and the viewers who are watching this to take what you've said to heart, to incorporate it, and to make their lives quantitatively and qualitatively different by incorporating asking into their life, by getting the book and sharing the show and sharing the links. And together we can transform the world. We can literally light 1,000,000 candles off of one candle. And
correct.
And you're doing it. And I'm very pleased to have been able to be a small part of that today. And I thank you for your presence here and for your contribution to the world for so many years as Crystal Dwyer Hansen and Mr. Mark Victor Hansen. Thank you very much for being on Create Your Best Life Ever with Rex.
Good.
Thank you, Rex.
Thanks, Rex.
That's it, everybody. You've been watching Create Your Best Life with Rex. I hope you will apply the powerful principles and practices you've learned in today's show. And also click the links below to go to my website and my guests. There's powerful programs, principles, and practices waiting for you when you click those links. Do it today and create your best life ever.